You could go bankrupt on $1,000 or you could go bankrupt on $1 million. Really, you're still bankrupt. You have to have the courage and the guts to, say yes, even when you really don't know how. Anybody can decide to be a better leader, and they don't have to be the CEO of a company. You have to have some emotional maturity on your part as a leader. But that other person also has to know.
Welcome to Builders, the podcast for impact-driven leaders who are done carrying it all and ready to scale with clarity, strategy, and freedom. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic growth architect, creator of the CEO Recode, and second brain to leaders who are building brilliant companies without sacrificing every ounce of their time, energy, or sanity. Each episode, I sit down with bold leaders who've rebuilt, recalibrated, or redefined what it means to lead well and live well on their own terms. We talk messy pivots, leadership upgrades, tactical wins, and the deep personal work it takes to build a business that actually works for you. If you love the episode, make sure you follow, rate, and share it with another leader who's building big and wants to build smarter. And if you're listening and thinking, damn, I need someone in the guts of my business with me, let's talk. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth and define 2 to 3 high-impact shifts you can implement now to regain traction and build momentum. Now, let's dive in. Let's build it better. Welcome to Builders, Marcylle. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm thrilled to have you on the show and to dig in with another leadership expert.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. You are not only a leadership expert, a author, a speaker. You have your podcast, which I've been on, so great, 50% with Marcylle Combs, really focusing on women's leadership journeys, which I love. And there's so much to, your journey. I think you've had 3 decades in healthcare, all the way from nursing to growing a multi-million-dollar business. I'm not going to do you justice. So in your own words, if you could just intro us, get us started. Who are you, and, what have you built and what are you building now?
Oh, thank you, Alex. It's such a pleasure to be here and to just share with your audience. It's funny, when we are 18 entering college, we have a plan that we think is going to unfold for our life. But then when the day is done, we end up at a real different spot, 30 or 40 years later than we actually set out to do. So I am a registered nurse, and I still do very much keep that license. I wandered around, thought I would never really work full time until my children were grown, but that path was real different for me. So through a lot and I also said I would never work with the elderly. And I worked in labor and delivery, neonatal intensive care early on. But through a series of events, we moved to Lubbock, Texas, the home of Texas Tech. And I went to work part-time in a home health agency. And truly, as I think back on it, I fell in love with that work, which is almost always, or almost all clients or patients are elderly. They're 65 or older. So let me just say that for those of you young picking a career, just pick one, because you're probably going to end up at a different spot. But anyway, through a series of events, and you never take a business class and the math you take for a nursing major, and I am bachelor prepared, is nothing that prepares you for being an entrepreneur. But I fell so in love with this company that the owner wanted to sell. And truly, I wanted it. I didn't have, as they say, 2 dimes to rub together. But somehow I talked him in to letting me buy it. And not only that, but financing me buying it. So from there, I I just loved the game of trying to grow a company, and I loved what we did. So I ended up selling that company in a couple years, formed another company, managed a $1 billion hospital systems, home health and hospice services, and their home care services. Then I did that for about 10 years, went back out on my own, started another company and grew that. We were about 75 million when I sold in 2018 and didn't have a really enough good sense to stay out. So, and just retire and move to Mexico. I didn't have enough sense to do that. So I started, I already had another company started. So I currently have three companies, none of which are in that large of numbers, but one of them's, well, two of them are a couple million, and the other one's, much smaller, kind of the beginning of what we're going to do. What am I going to do when I grow up? So, in a short, 5, 6 minute talk, that's kind of been my career, and I've been really blessed. To hire great people, work with great people, and have the opportunity to grow.
Mm. Was there a moment, or how did you know that you were kind of meant to build businesses? Like you said, nursing school didn't prepare you for entrepreneurship. I don't know that anything does, if I'm honest, but
Exactly.
absolutely, the fundamentals even of just business were not taught to you through your formal education. It sounds like there was a lot of passion driving you, which is, I think, is a huge part of the success recipe. But how did you know that you were, going to be a builder?
Well, I credit really my business mentor, who was really my same age, but who just inspired me. I mean, he and inspired me. I had a lot of tears going on when I took over just managing because I had no idea what I was doing managing. I mean, I was 32 years old, and I just really I didn't know anything. But he said, "What's your financial goal?" And I remember saying to him, "I want to be the highest paid nurse in the United States." And then he said, "But how much money do you want in the bank?" And I said, I just picked a number, $6 million without any debt. And you know what he said to me that was the clincher, because everyone else I said this to told me looked at me like I was a nut because, I have all these kids and, what am I doing? And he said, "Oh, Marcylle, that's not near enough." And I thought, wow, okay, well, that means that this is possible. Um, and the truth is, and I just said this earlier today, really my motto kind of was you could go bankrupt on $1,000 or you could go bankrupt on $1 million. And really you're still bankrupt. I mean, either way around it. But I also credit, I am a big reader. I went and bought the dummies books, how to start a business for dummies. I don't even know. I mean, you can listen, they're great books. I
Yeah.
didn't, I mean, I just, I just read a lot of things and asked a lot of questions. Would I have been better off with a business class beforehand? Absolutely. But when I was going to school, you couldn't have, I would have told you I would never sit behind a desk. And I would never do that all day long.
Mm. I loved what you said too about, choose something and go from there, because I know so few people, particularly people that I would classify as living a life that feels fulfilling,
Mhm.
caveat that, who are doing what they thought they would do when they were 18,
Exactly.
So I think that Yeah, and also to your point, yeah, would it have been great to have a business class? Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like no matter how much you prepare, you're gonna have to figure it out. And I actually think that's the fundamental
Right.
of entrepreneurship is figuring it out. I say my biggest skill is bringing order to chaos and
Mm,
learning fast enough to solve problems. And there's a bit of a
exactly.
difference. Like you can be a
Mm,
problem solver with knowledge you have, but a true problem solver can intake, process, and output information to solve problems they had no idea about 3 days ago.
and get to the other side.
Yeah.
It's having, I think, courage. You have to have the courage and the guts to, say yes, even when you really don't know how. And I can honestly say, I don't even know why he really did that for me, to tell you the truth. Now, he got his money back within 24 months, so I guess I was a good bet. Um, and he was a pure entrepreneur himself, just purely, even to this day, still starting businesses, growing them, and selling them. But never, his was always when he hit about 2 or 3 million, then he turned it. But unlike me, who kind of get attached to the process and want to see it do more.
Yeah. I do think there's entrepreneurs that are more stage specific. Like they know they're like, I am good
Right.
at either getting it off the ground to be a proven process or growing it or potentially even like exiting it. Like I do think there's those stages and some people can do it all. But it's great if he knew that and he clearly saw in you that you had that
Something. Or
potential.
else just some craziness that he thought it would work.
I mean, you just have to recognize.
What is it? I don't know.
I'm curious. You said, being courageous enough to say yes, but I think there's also a role of saying no that is really important in leadership and in building businesses and in maintaining focus. Is that something that, like, do you think those are equally important?
I would tell you, I the people I know, and granted, I don't know a lot of people who are born with a silver spoon. I know people who have owned all the spoons, and have grown to that. But I think focus is the number one thing. How do I keep the first thing the first thing? I heard a guy long ago. I think his name was Mike Vance. He worked for Walt Disney directly, but he would say, as an entrepreneur, you have a million ideas on your desk. But you need to take out 2 or 3, leave them on the desk, and put the rest of them in your idea drawer. And they're ideas to get out later.
Mm.
So the people I know who are truly successful have learned to focus, and it does drive other people crazy. If for instance, I'm doing a presentation, and so the last couple days, I was even telling my husband, "Look, I mean, I know you got this whole agenda, but I need to accomplish this one thing." That is the one issue with multitasking. And, right now, I guess I only have 3 devices laying on my desk, but we're accessible 24 hours, but we're also distracted 24 hours. And it takes a personality and a focus and a will to really keep that first thing on your list there.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, talking about that and making choices, I have heard you say that you believe leadership is not a position, but a choice, and that everyone can be a leader in their own sphere of influence. And I'm curious, and maybe this is actually also something to do with like choosing to be disciplined and focused, but talking about leadership in general, how has that belief played out in your journey?
Well, I think as a person, we all are leaders, whether good leaders or bad leaders. I mean, we all have people every day that we influence. We influence them by walking in the building. Do I speak? I happen to own the building that my offices are in, and I have a lot of tenants. One of my businesses that drives me crazy, but but you have a choice to say hello to someone. You have a choice um, to open the door for an elderly person coming in with oxygen, even if you're late for the meeting. Um, you truly have a choice. I mean, now you can look up YouTube or any podcast on the way to work. I love AI, and so it's my latest little magic trick. And so I was listening. I mean, you there are so many ways to learn. And as a leader, you have to keep growing. I mean, my motto is that I'm going to learn something every day until the day I die. That's my own personal standard. How do I learn something today? And I love fiction. I just said I love reading. So this morning, my choice in the car was do I look up the podcast to learn more about all the different AI, or do I just listen to my fiction book? I really only have a 12-minute commute, so there's not going to be anything that's very long. But I do think the leader has to decide. Anybody can decide to be a better leader, and they don't have to be the CEO of a company. They can be the person working in janitorial services, which frankly probably work harder than I do physically every single day. But they can be a leader where they are. You just have to be willing to take instruction from other people. How can I grow? What could I do differently for you? How can I help you? How can I read something, listen to something um, that is going to help me on that journey?
I love that. I'd love to dig a little more into that. Because I often say that I really believe leaders and builders, like they're built, not born. And
Uh-huh. Mhm.
often I think, yes, there's so many inputs, and especially these days with the internet, that access
Right.
is not the problem. Um,
Right.
Often we define and develop via emulation, looking at leaders that we respect and
Mhm.
admire. And I'm curious, for you, was that the case? And also, you're obviously in one of your businesses really developing the next generation of leaders. So is that something that kind of resonates for you? And if so, how has that kind of respect and admiration of who you look up to evolved over time?
I think access is not the problem, but authenticity is the problem.
Mhm.
And we all come at approach things from a different level. I think you first have to decide, what do you believe? I mean, not just about business. That all can be learned. But what do you believe as a person? What do you believe, whether you are a person of faith or spirituality? What do you believe? And then those people that you look to should align. Now, on my phone, I have three different apps, and my husband is retired military. So let me just preface that. And I live in Texas. So, but I have on my phone, I have CNN, I have Fox, and I have the Wall Street Journal apps because I don't want to just listen to one voice. As I said, what is authenticity? Because I know who I am and I know what I believe. But then there's a whole lot of noise. I mean, there is so much noise that who I'm going to look to to really admire. They may not believe everything I believe, but they might be really into something. I would say, especially all my years as working in home health and hospice from a congressional level, if they don't support home health and hospice, I don't support them. Now, they may support a whole lot of other things I do, but these are these are where my patients are. These are where my employees get their paycheck from. You've got to agree with this with me, or I can't do that. But then I know who I am, and I know that I can certainly listen. I can talk to you all day long, but I might not agree with you. But I could sure be friends with you because I like you. And I think that is, it's more than why. I think it's who. Who are you? And then you approach the world. Now, if you're still trying to figure out who you are, then I would say before you do anything else from a leadership perspective, figure out what's right and wrong for you. What would you tolerate? What would you agree to? What are your standards as a business person? I mean, I'm a scrapper, Alex. I, if you want to be in competition with me, I can still be your friend, but I am going to fight. But once that business is mine or yours, I'm not going to go and try to lie, cheat, and steal to take it away from you. Now, will I be out there competing? Absolutely every day. But that's because I know who I am.
Mm, yeah. I think authenticity and integrity, and these days, there is less separation between work
Mhm.
and personal, both again due
Yeah,
to access, and just culture and expectation. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I think what you're saying about knowing yourself in order to have a foundation for the leader you become and the culture that you form and the decisions that you make and the strategy you choose. It
right.
all really does sit on who you are. And that is both the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is getting to decide all of that. And also it's the burden of entrepreneurship.
Responsibility.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a much better word.
Oh, no. Well, it is a burden too. It is a burden when you really want to bend the rules. You
Mm,
really, really want to, because you know whatever that is within your grasp. But the problem is, it won't be worth it. I mean, it really won't
yeah.
be worth it.
Yeah, I think I think that can't be overstated,
Mhm.
really being true to yourself and looking
Mhm.
at how do I show up in a way that is aligned and and it might be having those leaders that you want to emulate, how would this person handle this? Because I believe that they embody this value that I hold. I think
Absolutely.
it's really important. So I'm curious, as we're talking about knowing who you are and building things that respect and embody that, I like to talk about, I call it wealthy leadership, but it's really success on your terms, right? And I really like to think about what is it that you want your business to achieve and what is it that you want to be doing and what do you want your life to look like and figuring out how to make that work for people, right? So that you aren't 10 years down the road with a business that works, but a body that doesn't, or a family that you haven't been present for, or all of those things. And I would love to hear from you, what does success on your terms mean for you, and how have you built that through building so many massive businesses?
It, I will say some of that is, well, the overall goal is to impact people, my employees, at one time, my patients, to impact people is for the good, for the positive thing. But depending upon the life stage, success looks a little different. I mean, when my kids were little, I was working, I've always worked a lot, but I was working lots and lots, but I needed to be present and at key things for them. I didn't need to schedule my life so much in a way that I couldn't be at a game or I couldn't be at the senior Sunday. I always tell the story about I was out of town speaking at an event, and this is back in the cab days. I flew back to Dallas. I was speaking the next day too. Flew back to Dallas. I changed in the back of the cab, which really I'm sure was inappropriate, but I changed in the back of the cab. We came at, well, I'm 45 minutes from the airport. I got dropped off at the football game so I could walk on at halftime with my senior. I got back in the cab and went back to the airport and went back. I don't even know where it was now, but I just remember thinking, oh my word, I might lose my mind. But I did it because, that was success for me, that my children would know that their mother, that they were the most important thing. Didn't mean I didn't have a lot of other things to do. I think now, if you fast forward where I am today, it's more about I don't really want to work 80 hours a week. And I I I struggle. My struggle is tempering that with my personality. Because my personality is about growth. I was on a couple calls yesterday. How do we partner with this person to how do we grow? That's just, I like that. It's a fun game. I like that success. And today, success looks like I really have financially done really well. But today, success looks like how do I help the next generation? How do I help someone be inspired to do something more? And sometimes that is my own children who are in different, varying positions in their company. How do I can offer advice, which I'm thankful that they would come to me and ask me, how on earth, Mom, I have 4 sons and a daughter, how on earth, Mom, I'm having this trouble with the females that I am managing. How can I handle this? I mean, I'm honored, but that's the thing that I want to do. And that's why I wrote the book, because I have my own style of management that I have a proven history in, and really making friendship management work. And so success today looks to me by how much impact can I have, and what does that look like, and what kind of mark can I leave? What are they going to say? I worked for a hospice, remember? I owned several hospice agencies. What are they going to say at my funeral? Is anyone going to show up? And what are they going to say when I'm gone? Hopefully not that all she did was work, but hopefully it was the impact she made on me. I don't know if that really answers your question, Alex, or not.
No, I love that. Let's talk about your book, because first of all, the title kills me. Never
I just
out.
I just happen to have a copy.
Okay. I just happen to have a copy amongst your technological devices.
To have one right here.
Perfect.
Yes.
If anyone's listening and not watching, the title is Never Struck Through, Hire Your Friends. So always hire your friends?
Always hire your friends. That's the motto. It's all about friendship management and the joys and hopefully it's not a long book, so it's a quick read. And the how-to of what you need to do to try to do that and do that well. And that, I mean, I think it's harder calling, because most, even today in 2025, people would say, oh, never hire your friends and never hire your family. And I would go against, sometimes your family's harder, but I would go against all common wisdom on that, because I think and it is much harder to do the other. So if you want to take the easy way out, never do any of those two. But do you really want to go to work with people you don't like every day? I mean, do you really want to spend so many hours just tolerating or being able to work with. I don't really like them, but I can work with them. I mean, that's what you do with your competition. I mean,
Yeah. We
that's
love a
not what
controversial
you
opinion here. Uh, but I mean, when you say it that way, it doesn't sound controversial because I always
That's
say,
right.
back in consulting, I can teach you any hard skill, but I have to know that I could sit on a 12-hour plane ride, leave you in a room with my
Right.
clients. So, hire for fit, hire for culture. How do you differentiate? Is it the pre-existing relationship? Because I would say you should absolutely hire people that you can become, friends with to some degree, have,
Yes.
alignment. And I think again, when you are building companies as opposed to joining larger ones, that's really different. You have a lot more
Mhm.
opportunity to shape that. But what
Right.
what has shaped that belief for you? What's shaped that view?
I think years and years ago when I woke up and I knew I was going to have to be working every day full time, it wasn't the spot I thought I was going to be in and probably behind a desk most of it. I just decided because when I was promoted into this position, which really, frankly, only took because I didn't want the other girl to get it, because I knew I couldn't work for her and I didn't have to go to
You
work. So
are
I had to
so
find
scrappy. I
another
love
job.
it.
It's terrible. It's a terrible reason to take a job and knew nothing. Oh my word. I mean, what was I, 32, 33 years old? I knew nothing. And I didn't really like anyone that was there, if you want to know the truth. And I thought to myself, after I got in the position and really made so many mistakes, but I decided that I would only hire people I liked. Now again, you have to have people with licenses, and I mean, you can go, but that doesn't mean they were like me. It just meant that they were a likable person. Because really, frankly, if you can't get along with people, you really better be working in an online job and never have any exposure to any other people. If there's any skill that we should be preaching, it is how do I get along with people versus how do I get everyone else to come my way because I have the only right way. So I just felt like if I was going to spend all those hours at work, that it needed to be with people that I enjoyed working with. And really, that's how I started. My best friend ran the whole office for my corporate office. And really, I finally talked her into going to work full time because I never got to see her. And I thought, but did I have to have hard conversations with her back to knowing who you are? Were there times that she really made mistakes? Was it harder for me to have that conversation? You have to have some emotional maturity on your part as a leader, but that other person also has to know, no matter how bad, I mean, how much it is a difficult conversation, that you care about them. Now, I've even had to fire people, and that's really hard to fire a friend. And the truth is, 90% of the time, it ended up being a really good thing for them. One went back, got her degree, teaching. Another went out. She hated her job. Um, she went out and started her own floral company. She's such a better place now than she ever was with me. So it goes down to honesty and integrity, humility, and honoring the other person beside you.
Yeah, those difficult decisions are such a core component of leadership, and
Mhm.
they are often in the best interest of everyone. They're just not popular, they're just,
Right.
in the moment.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Are there any other leadership, beliefs or misconceptions that you've had to rewrite as you've gone through your journey that you think a lot of people hold and you just kind of have proven those to not be true?
I think one of them is, especially if you get someone in where, it's Patrick Lencioni and it's Five Dysfunctions of a Team. One of the core principles is trust. And a lot of times when you have someone who's been beat up by the business world a long time and they come into you, they don't want to share anything
Mm.
personal, nothing personal, because they have no trust for you. They don't know that whatever I'm asking is not because I'm going to use that against you at some point in the future. It is because I care about you. So if I care about you and you have teenagers who are on the warpath, which 90% of them are, and probably the other 10% are sneaking around and you just never know, which I tell my children these days, I don't want to know whatever they got away with. But I think that is one of the things that almost anyone who has worked for or several years for another organization, they do not trust people. And I think you have to be trustworthy and you have to demand that other people are trustworthy. And so if you're counseling with them, you would never bring up their whatever's going on with them in a personal way. You would stick to the facts of job function.
Mm.
And my motto is we laugh with you and we cry with you. We try to walk with you through all seasons. I go on. We have a girlfriend trip every year that some of us that have worked together. Actually, probably half this group now is retired, and we still try once a year to go somewhere and spend time with each other. Because there's 11 or 12 of us, because we really don't see each other any other time because we live in all different places and we are, most of us, doing all different things and in different phases in our life. So I think probably the trust factor and caring about them personally is probably, I'm not, some companies do that well, but it's hard. And the larger you get, the harder it is.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it just sounds like you're speaking to understanding the individual and,
Uh-huh.
understanding what makes them tick, what helps them perform, probably better retention. It sounds very common sense, but I agree with you that it's maybe not something that gets taught in traditional business um,
Right.
approaches or HR, with,
Right.
mitigating risk and how do we treat everybody solely based on how they perform at work. um yeah, I
And
can.
I think you have to be fair with everyone.
Mm.
And that is really important. I was never sued by an employee. I never. I mean, there are laws, and we have, oh Lord, healthcare. You have so many regulations you can't even shake a stick at them. So you truly, you have to be fair with everyone. And I would say when it comes to vacation time, when it comes to benefits, there is black and there is white. But when it comes to incentive plans, maybe your incentive because you're a young mother and you need time off with your kids. It'd be great to have the money, but you don't really need the money as much as you need a day to go to their program. You need the flexibility to maybe come in at 8:30 and work till 5:30. Now, we've always kind of had in our world, way before 2020, we've had a remote workplace, so we have to have productivity kind of things.
Mhm.
those sort of things. But truly, it's all about being fair.
Yeah, I think that's so well put. I'm curious, as you know, you are talking about leading and hire, working and building environments that you love to show up to and that, are with people that you enjoy time with. How does failure kind of play into success and leadership and that journey?
Well, from a pure business perspective, I think everyone needs to have measured failure. So, in other words, I would tell and my leaders this too, is that we need to be trying enough new things that some of them don't really work. Now, again, I might have been, was basically a Medicare contractor, which is a government contractor. And if, the state of Texas wakes up in August and says, we're out of budget money, and we can't pay you again till September 30th. I mean, somehow your own employees still want to be paid. So there's some things totally out of people's control. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you're going to grow a company, you're going to have to try some things, and not all things are going to work. And you have to be able to decide which things just need to go through the valley and which things really they aren't going to work. And you need to cut them. I have had to close an office before because it frankly just lost money for too many months. And we could just never seem to get it on the right path. And I always believe that I can make it work.
Mhm.
That you might have all the facts and, the CFO might have all the spreadsheets, but I can get to the other side and I can figure out a way. But if you have no failures, zero failures, then one, you begin to think you're invincible, and then you're really in trouble. And I've been there. I mean, there was a time in my young life I would have said, "Girl, you better move out of the way because I got all the answers." Well, guess what? I
Mm.
don't. And when you work with the government, they own the cookie jar and the cookies. Um, and so you have to figure out it's not enough to just be competitive. You have to follow their rules, and with a whim, they can do terrible things to you. And it's a sad thing that they have that much power, but they have that much power. But I'm a scrapper, so I would say I've learned a lot from the mistakes I've made. I've had to do a layoff. Probably the hardest thing I ever did in business was to cut people who didn't deserve to be cut because the government cut a program
Mm.
um, or cut funding, and they retro that. So you might be in February, but they retro the cut all the way back to December 31. Well, I mean, there's only Alex, you
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
it's part of the reason why I got out of as direct provider of home health and hospice because there are things that a normal business would never even. You get paid what your contract says, and they don't go back and say, "Oh, well, by the way, we know that you thought you were getting paid this much, but guess what? You just took a 5% cut." In that time, we took a $2 million cut and was basically retroed back to December 31. So we really had no choice. Um, and I considered that a failure. I mean, you might say that was not my fault. But with any mistake, or if I lost a customer, they left us to go to somewhere else. My motto would be when you use me, there won't be anybody better. We will care about you. We will do such an outstanding job. We will, under promise and over deliver. Um, but anytime, even when it wasn't as that cut wasn't our fault, I went back and said, what could we have done? How could we have been prepared? What are the pieces that I need to put in next time? And if you're going to be, in my opinion, a success in business, no mistake is not worth reviewing. And that's a failure. How do you change that outcome again? And that's not against me or you or any one individual. That's just what are the circumstances that came into play that led us to that outcome.
Mhm. Well, I think, you can take that in a lot of directions. This is kind of like a retrospective, but it's also the reason why having data and metrics is important, because it's
Right.
continuous improvement is understanding and
Right.
reflecting and, assigning meaning, but in a structured way, taking subjectivity out
Right.
of the equation as much as possible in order to be prepared, right? And I think that's, I love that, because that to me is a big part of strategy, right? If
Right. Right.
strategy
Let's look
comes
at the
from
real
more,
facts.
right?
Let's
Like,
look at the, yeah, real facts. What do the numbers really say? What is,
yeah. What were the
what was this?
variables? Did we account
Yes.
for those variables? If we didn't, how do we make sure those variables are in the equation next time so that we
Right.
are that, and that's, to me, that's that 1% better, right? It's every time we go in knowing a little bit more, less unknowns, more control over the levers. And to your point, understanding that there are things that are out of your control. Well, okay, how do we kind of at least know that those could happen and mitigate
Right.
for them?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I really love that. I'm curious, I want to come back to your book a little bit. A lot of people would love to write a book.
Mhm.
What inspired you? Because you have your businesses, you have, you do leadership advisory and development. You have a lot of ways to reach people and to share your wealth of knowledge and experience. So what inspired you to write the book? And I mean, what was that like? What does nobody tell you about becoming an author?
Girl, let's just say it's not easy to write a book. You have to my personality is not hours and hours behind closed doors with the computer by myself. So that is grueling. And the other thing I can't hardly stand is rewriting and rewriting and rewriting, and editors who all have their own opinion, and don't understand whatever it was you were saying and don't like the way you said it. It is like fingernails on a chalkboard for my personality to do that. I say there are some writers, speakers, and there are some speakers, writer, and I'm really more of a speaker writer. So I would say it does take sheer determination, because you can't just write it and be done with it. You have to write it and then edit it and then reformat it and then get the feedback and do it again, paragraph by paragraph. The only reason I really wrote a book, one is I love books, and there's a million books in my head. But again, there's also the discipline and the parts of my personality that make it hard to spend hours alone. It was really my friends who said, Marcylle, my friends and my former employees or current employees who said, you must do this. You must write this down and you must try to share it. And if you want to know what kept me up, because during this journey, I started writing in 2019, but I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the fall of 2020. And then I went through, and we all know what was going on in the fall of 2020. Not a good time to have any kind of healthcare issue because one, the hospitals were on lockdown, and two, it was just everything was difficult. So I had mastectomy in 2021, and then a series of surgeries and then reconstruction in 2022. So anyway, that's I just got off the path and back on it. So once I got back on it and started working with a publisher, then there's a whole nother set of editors with the publisher. So but I said, I just happened to have brought it. It's a real hardcover book. You can get it in paperback too, but I did it just as a life goal. I mean, let me just say, if any of you are out there listening, you're not going to make money on a book. You are not going to make money on a book. And that's the first thing the publisher asks you. What is your goal? And if your goal is to make $1 million, unless you are John Grisham and can reproduce fiction and then have it on, published into a movie or developed into a movie, even if you sell 1 million books, let's just say what you make on them, you can make a whole lot more money doing something else. So, now your book is a platform to do other things and a measure of credibility, I think. So there's that. But it was a lot of work. If I had to rewrite it again today, I would rewrite it differently because I have a good friend, John Maxwell, who's done tons of books on leadership, and he will say he'll go back and read a book that he wrote 5 years ago and say, "Oh my word, I need I need to make it better." But isn't that, Alex, the entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah.
How do we make it better all the time, and it's never quite good enough? Anyway.
I love that. You mentioned earlier that you were listening to a podcast on AI and that you love AI, and AI seems inevitable today.
Oh, yeah.
June 2025.
That's right. That's right.
What are you most excited about? And on, I guess, the other side, what are you maybe most worried about, particularly for, emerging leaders?
Well, two things. What I'm worried about, if you saw the Terminator, that 20 years from now, he's going to come back and say, "What were you thinking?" The things that worry me a lot is the open platform security. What does that look like? What's proprietary information? We put, one of my companies does consulting for healthcare. We put nothing out there in any public platform. But now, a year down the road, there are many secure that platforms, Copilot being one of them. I think chat you can also do. The truth is, I probably use chat the most. Mm-hmm. Oh my word. What it will do in a heartbeat. Now, someone said earlier they used it to rearrange the pictures on their wall. I can honestly say I've never done that. But from presentations to speeches to emails to social media, it can do things in 30 seconds. One thing that I have done from the beginning, because I speak on a lot of technical issues, you always ask it to cite the references, and you always follow the link, and you make sure you have an authoritative source. Do not get up there and do that without that. It's a death. I even put in, I say resumes, and so I'll have it answer questions based on the resume of the person I want it to give me the information on. My husband, oh my word, what you won't do for love, is he has a goal of going to all the national parks. I have a goal of only staying in five-star hotels. So those two things don't work. So I had it give me luxury hotels for national parks. I cannot tell you. I stayed in one and I will not repeat their name. But let's just say I moved to, a Hyatt place, which is not a five-star resort, but at least the floors are clean and the beds don't have nubby sheets. But I had it map out, where should we go? What tour companies should we use? What restaurants should we eat at? Where should we fly into? Like that. It had it. After one Mount Rushmore that had a very big fog going on, and for 2 days we didn't even see Mount Rushmore. Finally, the last day when my plane got canceled, did we see them for about 10 minutes. So my goal is for my sons to take my husband there. But anyway, you can cut all that part out.
Delegating. I love this delegation of life, not just business,
Oh,
which is,
but it will, AI, I believe. Now, I haven't even been into Claude, which really is more for programmers, but I feel like even though I'm not a programmer, I feel like it can do anything. And I believe it will take us forward in medicine, with stem cell research, with cancer. I think, now again, is that scary? Yes, because what's our privacy? What walls do we have built up? How do we have it controlled? I don't think we have any of that, but it's right, the horse has left the gate on the race and we're not going back. So I just, as a company and as a speaker, I don't put anything out there that I don't want accessed by the million. No, I don't put anything out there I wouldn't put on social media. But just remember, social media is hard to go back to your episode. I've been doing a podcast now 3 years. It's harder to go back to that, but AI can do that in 10 seconds. So be cautious.
Yeah, we love that. What is next for you? What are you working towards? Is there, you said that your latest company is still in the more nascent stage. What are you building?
Well, my goal is to become the female leadership expert in the country. That's my goal. Make your goal so high that you really probably will never live long enough to reach it. That's what I would like to be for women, because there's already the men's space is very crowded, but who would you put as the women's leadership expert in the United States? If you can't immediately know that, there are people who have done really good books. The latest craze is Let Them. But, they all are topic oriented. I'm not saying they aren't great and they haven't had some great information and how to shake it up, but that's number one, my goal. I would love to change the landscape, influence much better leaders in the healthcare space from administrators. Healthcare has become a business since the 80s and 90s, and we've lost all. Not all, there are some people doing it, but let's just say it's become a business where productivity and numbers are more important than people and outcomes. Outcomes are only important on how they impact our bottom line. And again, I put myself in this group. It's very hard to make a profit in a healthcare company, and you must to be able to stay in business. And so I would love to influence that in a big way. I would love to make an impact there. So that I would love to be among the top 20 female speakers in the US. So again, lofty goals that I may or may not reach, but ones that I think about on a regular basis.
Meaningful ones. I have no doubt that you'll be up there. And I love your point that if there isn't someone who comes to mind, it means the seat is vacant. It's available.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Which means you got a lot more years than I do, Alex, to get there. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love to close things out with a set of rapid fire questions. These can be a one-word answer, a quick, you can pass absolutely if nothing comes to mind. And then we'll just make
How
sure
much do I weigh? Then you won't get an answer.
Scratch that.
Take that one off. Yes.
So if we can jump into those and then we'll make sure everyone knows how to get a hold of you and wrap things up.
Perfect.
Ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. What is a decision that changed everything for you as a leader?
As a leader or business owner, I would say deciding to buy a business, as a leader, beginning to know who I was.
Amazing. What does strategy feel like when you're doing it well?
It feels like a list that you check off every day.
Incredible. Is there a book, podcast, or person that really cracked something open for you?
I love John Maxwell, and I've been reading his books. He has maybe 90 books. Been writing for a long time. Is 78, and is quite the firecracker even today.
Yes.
All of his books. Developing the Leader Within You is the one book that I started all new employees. All new employees for me get 2 or 3 books. I don't know if they read them or not, but they get them.
There's no test at the end.
There's no test at the end.
What's something that you've said never again to in your business?
Never again be a direct provider of Medicare, home health, and hospice. Now, I don't know if I'm going to keep that, but that's what I said. Never again.
Never say never.
That's right. I'm afraid to say never. I really, as I sit here.
Yeah. If you had a free weekend and 0 obligations, how would you spend it?
Oh my gosh, at the beach. I mean, any beach. I'm not really that picky. I'll go to the Gulf of Mexico. I'll go to Mexico. Mexico, top of my list.
Come back soon.
Really, I will be there in August. Not only in Cabo, though.
Okay. Other side. Yeah. Different.
Other side. Right.
Amazing. Marcylle, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your absolute depth of experience and wisdom and knowledge. I'm so grateful. And if people do want to find you and, learn from you, consume your other content other than your book, which they can find on Amazon.
Exactly.
Yes.
You can find it on Amazon.
They're in the notes.
Yes.
What's the best
Yes.
way to find you?
Really by my website. It's marcyllecombs.com. You have my name. As long as you can spell my name correctly, you can get to me because trust me, nobody else has it spelled that way. Or I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel, but I would say probably not a lot of information out there, but mainly my website. It has links to everything else.
Wonderful. We'll make sure all the links are in the show notes. So if you're listening, you can just go ahead and click there. And just thank you so, so much. It was a wonderful conversation.
It's so fun to talk to you. Just have a great time in Mexico every day, girl.
Yes. That's a wrap for this episode of Builders, where we get real about what it actually takes to grow companies that perform without grinding you into the ground. If today's convo sparks something for you, here's what to do next. Follow the show, drop a 5-star review, and share it with someone else who's building big. Don't let it be lonely at the top. If you're ready for more clarity, more leadership freedom, and less of a duct tape and go growth vibe, let's connect. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth. Walk away with a personalized fix-it list that gives you the clarity you've been craving on what to shift now to regain traction and build momentum. For more tools, insights, and my no-fluff takes on leadership and scaling strategically, join the Builders Club, also linked in the show notes. You can also head over to leaderswhobuild.com, where you'll find all the links to peep my creds, see client wins, or just confirm that yes, I went to the gym today. Until next time, keep leading boldly, building smart, and living success on your terms.